We be different.
Grace, peace, blessings to you all. Welcome back to another edition of the Be For Real Show. I'm your host, Brother Brooks. Glad to have you back with us for another edition.
What's the deal, y'all? It's BJ Brooks. Y'all probably know me from your Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, getting on your nerves, but it's getting on your nerves with facts, so I really don't care if I get on your nerves.
I just want to get into a few things today between the both of us. You know, first and foremost, we won this election, and that's a great thing. And I'm saying we because I'm talking about conservatives. I'm talking about people who sit on what I consider the right side of the issues. People who have come to the knowledge of common sense. Well, really, you don't come to the knowledge of we're inbred with common sense. Mm-hmm. But at times, especially these days, common sense is not common. What was your initial feeling with the results of the election? Were you surprised? Were you elated? What was your initial reaction to the election last Tuesday evening?
Well, I'll tell you what. Before the election, I was, I guess, cautiously pessimistic. There's a guy online, and he's been doing political predictions for the last, 2 or 3 decades. His name is Alex Lichtman, something around there. Anyway, he predicted, using his 13 keys for prediction, that Kamala Harris would come out with the W. And also, I was very nervous because of the illegal immigration that we've had, those issues going to all swing states and getting these dudes all kind of different privileges, and knowing that if you give them those privileges, that it was a very high chance that they would all swing towards Kamala's direction. So once the election actually started and I started to see what looked like a sweep develop, I was pleasantly surprised, but surprise isn't even a word. I was really more shocked because I didn't think that it would be the red wave like what we saw that night. I was genuinely surprised.
So the red wave did actually happen. It just took place 2 years later, which isn't a bad thing. But I'm going to tell you like this here. I truly believe that we had to endure 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I believe it was necessary. Now, of course, we were all upset. You know, again, those of us on the right side of things, we were all upset with the last election and how everything went down. But if you go back and look at it and you think about it, that had to happen because it was so bad that anybody with any common sense, again, throwing that term out there, would see how bad things were the previous 4 years versus how things were during the Trump administration. And if you look at those two things, there's no way that anybody with any lick of common sense would want to go backwards to high inflation, high gas prices, making life and death decisions at the grocery store. And not only that, but add to it the immigration crisis, the crime rates that it just skyrocketed because we have all of these soft on crime politicians. I don't know how anybody would want to go back to that. So this 4 years, it had to happen. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree that it needed to happen to give us a little bit of perspective on one set of 4 years, one administration versus the other. And I also want to piggyback on that point. But before I do, I feel successfully trolled by Joe Biden, and I really don't like it. I think a lot of people understand that Trump is one of the best trolls on the planet. I think Joe Biden actually successfully out-trolled him because all of a sudden he's doing these interviews, he's getting up in press conferences, and he sounds like he got a brain. It sounds like he's not on drugs. It sounds like he is not senile. It sounds like he's happy that Donald Trump was actually elected president. So I feel trolled by that. But also, if you think about the fact that if the possibility that if Trump actually won that second term in 2020, there would have been a Democrat-controlled Congress. So as far as getting anything passed that would have actually bettered the country but made Donald Trump look good at the same time, I really don't think it would have happened during that administration. And so I'm really happy, actually, like I say, that we have two different administrations to compare against each other.
Right.
And if you're using common sense and if you're being honest, you know for sure the last 4 years were not as good as 2016 leading all the way up to COVID. And I stop at COVID because obviously if we're talking about in terms of how our nation was doing before COVID and after COVID, that growth was stunted by COVID. And I still think it was in some ways, now I'm a conspiracy theorist with the tinfoil hat here, but I think in a lot of ways that didn't just come by accident. We already figured out that the virus was made in Wuhan in a lab by people, and they didn't make it to contain it. They made it to spread it. So, you know, whatever you want to believe, all I'm saying is I'm happy that Donald Trump didn't win in 2020 and we got him in 2024, including J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is my guy. So I'm glad we don't have to deal with the other guy. We got J.D. Vance in the club now, so, you know, I'm actually really elated to see a man like that being second in charge.
J.D. is a real G.
Yeah.
Now, I'm probably just like anybody else. I didn't know who he was in the beginning when Trump picked him because
same here.
Had you asked me then, I would have immediately thought that Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds,
even Tulsi Gabbard. I would have took Tulsi Gabbard right off the board, to be honest with you.
I never bought into the Tulsi Gabbard for VP, maybe for a cabinet position, but never for VP. But I absolutely was on the Vivek Ramaswamy train when it came to the VP position because, man, that guy right there, between him and Byron Donalds, we're talking about two of the sharpest, no fear individuals that will go to any platform, answer any question, and will not back away. Those are the type of fearless leaders that we need leading this country. So when J.D. Vance came out, of course, you, just like me, I didn't know who he was. I had to do my research. But when you get the opportunity to see him in debates, when you get the opportunity to see him in interviews where they are, again, going on various platforms, even platforms that are not likely to be friendly to a conservative candidate, I appreciate the fact that they go on to these and they are able to articulate their points with no fear, unscripted, of course, because when it comes to scripting, we know if you look at the other side, if there is no script, if there is no teleprompter, what do we always get? We get nervous giggling. We get word salad statements. Unless
she's talking about washing greens in a bathtub. Did you catch that?
I caught that. And you know what it made me remember? Now, see, this is one of the points that I wanted to bring up. Pandering, right? Pandering.
Crazy amount of pandering.
Oh, my goodness. Now, let me get this out the way. Pandering is something that has bothered me not just this election cycle or the last election cycle. It's something that's bothered me for quite some time. And the reason it bothers me so is because it's successful. That's what bothers me. Now, BJ, I don't know if you remember, but if you go back to the 2020 election, there were two major things that were going on. Now, I don't know if it was a 2020. Yeah, it must have been the 2020 election. We had the Get Your Booties to the Polls movement, right? Now, this is what bothers me. And America, I want y'all to listen to me. Listen to me really clearly. I am a black man in America. But let me be perfectly clear. That does not mean that you need to appeal to me politically with strippers with vote or die written across their butt to get me to go and vote for the Democratic politician. It doesn't work for me because what it's telling me is that you think nothing more of me than to put someone up to sexually entice me into doing something, or you put up a who is it, Meg the Stallion,
Right.
to twerk. Glorilla,
Yeah.
Cardi B.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know these people, right? And I don't know their actual intelligence levels.
Cardi B doesn't have a lot. I'm just tell you right now.
Well,
She ain't
here's
that
my
smart.
thing. Whether these people are very intelligent or not, the fact that you put them up for us tells me what you think about my intelligence level.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but I believe it was in the primaries when they were trying to get Stacey Abrams elected in Georgia. They did the most racist pandering that I could imagine. Now, I'm not one that's really concerned with racism, right? Racism does not bother me in my daily life. If it bothers you, that's your issue. It does not bother me.
Yeah, but what they do with Stacey Abrams, I forgot about that.
Okay, so what they did in Georgia with Stacey Abrams, is they had a voter turnout rally where they were giving away collard greens,
I do remember that.
pinto beans, and cornbread.
And you know what's crazy? People fall for that.
Hold
People
on,
wait
hold
in
on,
line,
hold on,
and they
hold on.
literally be like,
But
"Oh, I'm finna go." Hold on,
But hold on. Just let that sink in
right?
for just a second. Now, and I'm trying to appeal to the black person who is always talking about racism. Well, you know, Donald Trump said something racist. He ain't nothing but a racist. Them Republicans, they ain't nothing but racist. Yet, you say nothing when they literally hold a rally to give away collard greens, pinto beans, and cornbread. Jiffy cornbread at that, right?
Yes.
So here's the thing. You got us to go to the polls for 3 of the absolute cheapest things that you can find in the grocery store.
Right.
And the crazy thing about it is you had cars lined up for miles to get those greens, pork and beans, pinto beans, and cornbread. Not only that, add that with the booties to the polls, add that with Kamala Harris always switching up her
Dialect.
right? So it seems like she gets a little blacker when she's in a black church.
Can't even do it right. Like that what really, like, you can't even, at least Obama had a little bit of that, you know what I'm saying? Like he could, but watching Kamala is not funny, man. It's straight up
painful.
disrespectful. Yeah.
It's painful to watch. What was it that she said? We was there in 2020 and we gonna be there in 2024.
Ain't got a lick of black in the way that she talk.
2024. 2024.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I mean, like I say, at least Obama, when he got up, now I don't give Obama credit for a whole lot of
Me
stuff.
neither.
We really don't. But
No.
at least when he got up talking at HBCUs, he had a little bit of brother in him, you know what I'm saying? Like he could actually,
No.
just a little bit.
See, here's
You
the
could
thing.
still detect it was fake.
Here's the thing, though, BJ. Obama is a genius. He has studied
Oh, yeah.
the black man in America.
Big time.
Absolutely. Let me tell you something. If you go back and look at his time during his presidency, he was always, you know, in his chill and relaxing time. They would catch him smoking Newports, shooting basketball.
Which he can hoop.
Huh?
He can hoop.
Okay.
Can't make policies, but he can hoop.
Well, I ain't gonna disagree with that.
I'm just gonna say I seen the man hoop. I'm like, I
But
say
my
you can hoop.
point
You got it
is-
from something.
Is whether he could hoop or not, Why are you showing us
Right.
that he can hoop? Why are you bringing 20 or 30 rappers to the White House? Now, again, I'm not questioning the intelligence levels of the rappers themselves, because some of them may be very sharp and very intelligent. It's not their fault that they were invited, because if I'm invited to the White House, I'm going to the White House as well.
Yep.
You know, I don't care who's in office, I'm going, right? But the pandering has been off the scales with me. Now, even worse, and I know that you've seen some of this as well, BJ. This is what really bothers me. The black pastors.
Oh.
Okay. Now, the reason this bothers me is because, now, you know what? I'm not going to get too deep into it, because this is an entire different video that we're going to have a discussion on when it comes to the black pastors, because it's something that I'm going to really have to break down in extreme detail, so that nobody is accusing me of just throwing out some talking points or just making up stuff. I'm going to come with the facts, and we're going to go with the facts line by line. But in a general sense, the black pastors have been compromised, and they have been used to swindle the black community.
Now we gotta throw Jesse Lee Peterson in there. Not all, but most. It's not all, because you got plenty of black pastors in there.
That is true. So,
but yeah, most.
So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got on the pandering, and we talked about the things that bothered us just a little bit about this election cycle. But let's talk about some of the positive things, right? How did we actually get here? How did we get this win? Because if we're being honest, BJ, it was not the legacy media that brought the higher percentage of black men over to the conservative movement this time around. And let me just stop and say something about this conservative movement for one thing. I know you see the hat that I got on, right?
It's a nice
now,
hat.
Let me tell all of you ignorant clowns out there who have a problem with seeing MAGA on anything. It's a campaign slogan. It's not a religion. It's not a cult. It is a campaign slogan. Make America great again. It's a campaign slogan. It's no different than Obama's campaign slogan of hope and change, or whatever it was, or Kamala Harris's campaign slogan, I'm with her. Don't get mad at the fact that Donald Trump, being a marketing genius, decided to throw this on a red cap with some white lettering and just flood the market with them and make this thing a great marketing tool for the campaign. That's all it is. Make America great again. And yes, I want to see America made great and remain that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to say that. But man, I forgot my original point.
Well, let me add on to this, because you mentioned the word cult, and that's something that the left likes to throw around a lot. And yes, I'm not going to say for sure that anybody is doing cult activities unless you tell me that you are. But a very cultish thing, just going back to the black pastor. As a pastor, as a preacher or a minister of the word of God, you should be committed to the truth. Now, when feelings and you protecting the sisters, quote unquote, all of this, that, and the third gets in front of you actually getting up and preaching the gospel and the truth.
Right.
So now you get up doing the same thing that the Democrats do to us, pandering, all of this crap.
Yeah.
That directly is a sign of you being in a cult, because you refuse to acknowledge the lies that are pushed. You refuse to acknowledge the wrongdoings, and you just jump right on that boat and swim along shore. So that cult thing doesn't bother me, because people don't even realize the cultish behavior that comes from the other side. It's no matter how wrong, blue no matter who type of thought process. So I don't get bothered by it, but I do see a lot of signs of it. And like I say, I'm not going to accuse you of being in a cult, but if you're exemplifying cult-like behavior, I think it's right for me to ask about it, and see whether or not that actually is a cult that you belong to. And if not, then explain why not.
Well, whether it is a cult or not, I mean, it's just another one of those terms that people tend to throw around that actually do have great meaning, yet we throw these terms around so very casually, just like the term racism. It has a great and deep meaning, but we throw it around in such a casual manner that it has no impact as it should any longer. But what I was going to say is I want to give shouts out to the YouTubers. I want to give shout out to the pastors who actually stood up during this time and did not fold to the pressure of social media. They didn't fold to the pressure of
and face scrutiny because of
the what?
They face scrutiny because of them taking a stand.
But the Bible says that those who stand up in these times, you're going to face that scrutiny. You're going to face that backlash. You're going to face all types of trials when you decide to, take up your cross and follow Christ. And people really don't know what that entails. When you're taking up your cross to follow Christ, that is a commitment like none other. This means that you are willing to give your life up for what Christ says that he wants us to do and what he wants us to stand up for. We have to be willing to lay our life down. And many of us are. So I just want to give a shout out to, now I know you probably have a list. I have a list too. But again, it wasn't Fox News this time. Of course, it wasn't CNN. It wasn't NBC, MSNBC, ABC News, or any of those. It was not legacy media that brought the black man over to this side of right this time around. It was YouTubers like Greg Foreman, Black Conservative Perspective. Who else? Anthony Brian Logan,
ABL,
which we always talk about, ABL. April Chapman with the Standard of Truth podcast. Vince Everett Ellison, who was actually on the panel with Patrick Bet David. Patrick Bet David is another one who really stood up for right. But one thing that I respect about a YouTuber like him is not only does he stand up for right, but he is willing to listen to the other side fairly. And I respect that. Because let me tell you something. One thing that I've learned in all of my years is that you learn when you actually open your heart, your ears, your eyes to listen to what other people have to say, what other people are feeling, why they feel the way that they feel, instead of just saying, well, if you don't align with me and my values, I'm just going to write you off and we can't have no conversation.
You know what? When you're doing that, as I've done before, you really get a better understanding of why that person feels the way they feel. Whether or not you agree, if you can get a better understanding, you still maintain your respect for that person because at least you're not pulling that belief or that thought process out of the dark and you're just being led like a sheep to the slaughter.
Right.
So at least there's something of value in your point. So there's a bunch of people that I disagree with, but we calmly discuss the matter and we come to figure out, it's like, okay, you have a reason for why what you understand is true. I have a reason for why I understand what is true. That doesn't change the truth, but that gives a little bit more validity to your argument behind, why you would stand that way. So I think just like you're saying, those podcasts, those long form podcasts that we've been having, shout out to, Joe Rogan, the Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, I've been reading about this a lot lately, has played a pivotal role in this election outcome. And he played a pivotal role because he acquired Twitter. And when he did that, not a lot of people know, understand, or are willing to recognize. But before he acquired Twitter, Twitter was a thought jail. It was, it was one of those places where, if you didn't think left, they weren't going to let you think at all. The Hunter Biden laptop story is not real. That type of deal. Now, Elon Musk comes in and buys the company. Now, all of a sudden, you get those people that were hushed for so long, people like the Alex Joneses, we going right for the top, Tucker Carlson, XYZ, those guys, Donald Trump, those guys that were silenced through that big piece of media outlet finally got their voice again, along with everybody else that has had a voice, the Charlie Kirks of the world, the Candace Owenses, so on and so forth. So I think that played a major role in it. But, even the small-time, quote-unquote, small-time creators, like I say, the Candace Owens, the ABLs, and so on and so forth, those guys played a pivotal role because, especially as black people, actually being able to come from that perspective but still allowing that thought process to lead straight to the truth in majority, if not all matters, and then communicating that to other black people who are willing to understand, I think that made a huge impact in the outcome. But what was interesting is looking at the numbers, there were still majority of black people voted Democrat, and this is every state. Majority of black men, black women. Yeah. Right? I think, if I'm not wrong, the black women vote actually rose for the Democrats.
I'm sure.
And, I don't see that. I just, it lets me know a few things. It lets me know that us as a conglomerate, as black people as a whole, we're still so easy to manipulate and pander to. And there are people with your same skin color, with a whole lot of influence, with a lot of insight as to the inner workings of how all of this goes down, that are trying to tell us, that are trying to be watchful, that are trying to warn us of the things that go on behind scenes that we may not have otherwise had access to if we were stuck with MSNBC, Hee-Haw, and CNN, and even Fox News in some cases. If we're stuck with those legacy media outlets and we don't have people like the Candace Owenses of the world, the Patrick Bet-Davids, it would have been much harder for us to actually get insight into what we need to know, therefore to make an educated decision on, who we're going to vote for to be the ringleader of the country. So, yeah, I have a lot of respect for those people. And I witness it all the time in the comment section and DMs that they post, stories that they post, XYZ, about how much scrutiny they take. Yeah. And it's funny because, what I've seen on the right side of politics is we usually not decide to block all of y'all out or to delete you on Facebook or whatever the case is. We just let it roll and keep on going with the punches and stuff like that. I'm interested. What has been your experience as far as that's been concerned? Because over the last, since 2019, I was looking at it last night. I'm like, man, I used to have close to 2,000 followers on my main Instagram account. Now I think I got 1,100. I'm going below. And I catch myself watching people's story. And I'm like, I wonder if this person still follow me. Go and click. Sure enough, they don't follow me. And I'm like, dude, we worked at Grimaldi's together. It's not a big deal. What has that experience been like for you here in the last 5-6 years?
Well, I'll tell you like this here. For me personally, it has not just been the last 5 or 6 years.
That's true.
For me personally, I started standing on this island by myself a long time ago, right? So what I'm saying is that there was a time. Well, let me tell you this here. Let me go back and kind of give you my red pill moment, so to speak, right? So everybody who was a former Democrat who ends up coming over to this side of conservatism can all tell you about that moment, that red pill moment, or that, aha moment, right, so to speak. Mine, I'm gonna have to tell you who was responsible for mine, and it might shock you. President Barack Obama was responsible for my red pill moment. So here's the thing. I'm going to be honest with you. The first time that President Obama ran, I voted for him. And do you know why I voted for him?
I know why I would have wanted to vote for him if I could have voted. I had a watch with his face on it.
Yeah. I voted for him based on the fact that he was black. First time around. That's it. Well, okay, let me add this. He was black and he wasn't Bush. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here are a couple of the key factors that was aside from just his being black. The fact that he was claiming Christianity and he had a very nice looking family. He was a man that was all about Christianity and marriage, right? Add the fact that he's black and he got a nice looking dog, right? So it's like, and he spoke well and all that. And I hate saying that.
Like that, man.
Hold on. I hate saying
what his dog look like.
He just looked like a nice family.
I ain't gonna lie though, if you got a nice dog,
yeah,
I kind of trust you a little bit more.
Right.
Like if you can take care of that dog and that dog loves you and it stays by you and you got it nice and well trained and things like that. I'm like, oh, that's a good dude.
It's a nice looking.
That's a good dude.
And it adds to the family photo, right? Right?
Yeah.
So nice looking family.
I think I know what you're talking about now though. The long haired dog.
Yeah. Great looking dog.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Well-mannered, well-behaved children. He speaks very well, which, again, I hate saying that when it comes to a black person because we ain't all just out there talking jive, you know. But my point is he got me in, right, on those things alone. You could not ask me anything about his policies the first time around because I did not know. And that was not important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Representation was important to me Barack Obama's first term. Okay, so the red pill moment. I guess it was about 2, maybe 3 years into his first term when I started to see the switch. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And what am I talking about when I talk about the switch? Well, the switch was he started to go after policemen, right? This is around the Trayvon Martin.
Which, if we being honest, no black person likes. Nobody likes living in a neighborhood where it's already dangerous and it's going to get more dangerous because they defunding the police. It's never been an answer. Nobody's ever liked it. Nobody in the hood.
We're going to get on that. But he started to attack the police, right? Not only that, but then he started to push this whole gay marriage agenda. All right. So when he started doing that, it completely turned me off. Oh, he also started to attack Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this was before his second term. So he was just kind of greasing us all up, right? And getting us into that second term. So he already had the black vote. He already had the vote of the white liberals, Hollywood, and everybody else. But he started to really get into the whole gay thing. All right. And I'm looking around to everybody else that voted for him just like I do. And I'm like, man, y'all don't see this?
Right.
Do you not understand what's going on? Do y'all not? Why is this not clicking to anybody? Am I the only one who sees what this guy is doing? And y'all don't see this guy just flip modes on us real quick? He already got the black vote. Now, apparently, he has to secure the gay vote. What better way to do that than pass gay marriage? Did you catch that?
No, I wasn't paying attention at all until 2019, 2018. That's when I turned my brain on as far as it's concerned. But, you know, one thing that I went back and learned about, as far as Obama is concerned, and shouts out to my guy Larry Elder. We didn't say anything about Larry Elder, but Larry Elder needs his flowers, right? Because that's the only reason I even much pay attention to numbers when it comes to policy. But either way, Larry Elder pointed this out to me. He says during his campaign in 2007, a reporter asked him, if you lose, will it be because of racism and America not being ready to have a black president? And he said, no, if I lose, and this is up on Google, this is known, okay? Open knowledge. He says, if I lose, it's because the American people will not trust me as their leader. It has nothing to do with race. It's because they didn't think I was the best candidate. Fast forward into his campaign, and now all of this race rhetoric starts coming up. This is before we even get to 2012. But now all of a sudden, Trayvon Martin, and now the police got an issue with racism.
Exactly.
You see what I mean? Exactly. Now all of a sudden, the bureaucracy doesn't agree with having black folks at the highest position. Meanwhile, you're the president of the United States.
Right.
So that type of stuff right there, when you notice that flip-flopping, and that's one thing that I really cannot stand that nearly all politicians do to a degree.
To a certain degree. Yeah.
But when you flip-flop that hard on things that are supposed to be pillars of your campaign,
yes,
you can't get me to continue to buy into it.
And that was my red pill moment.
Yeah.
And that's what began me on the track of research. So when Obama showed me who he really was, then I started to research. Now, I've always been told, even going back to when I was a child, right? And this is how I know that black people get bad information, and we just regurgitate that bad information for decades and decades, passing it on down the generations. I can remember when I was a child coming home from school, learning about government and whatnot. I remember asking my mother, who only knew what she knew. I asked her, I said, well, Mama, what is the difference between a Republican and a Democrat? And she said this verbatim, and I remember this from when I was a child. She said, the Republicans want to keep the rich rich. The Democrats are for the poor. Okay. So that was very clear to me who we were going to align with. Mm-hmm. However, the problem with that type of thinking is the thinking that says that all black people are just poor. Not just poor in money, but poor in spirit, poor in morals. You're poor, you're disadvantaged, right? Now, I'm gonna be honest, I know that there were times in history where black people were disadvantaged.
Of course.
We came out of slavery, came into, the civil rights era, Jim Crow and all of that. There were times when black people were absolutely at a disadvantage.
This is known.
But here's the thing, and I'm talking to the believers out here, right? Because I ain't talking to nobody else. The world is the world. The world has judged itself, right? I'm talking to those who claim Christ as their Lord and Savior. Did Christ not teach us to forgive and forget? Let me say that again. Forgive and forget. Because, see, some of you are still out here, especially on social media, throwing out the lie or the false narrative that I will forgive, but I won't forget. Well, that's not the word of God. God didn't tell you to forgive and hold on to that pain. He wants you to forgive and forget. So in that respect, you need to forgive slavery. You have to forgive the Jim Crow era. And then look at where we are as black people in 2024. This is the best time in the history of this world for black people to be alive. You can do whatever it is that you want to do with no restraints, no restrictions. You can get the highest education. You can obtain the highest position in the land, which is President of the United States. Not only once, but twice.
Right.
So It's time for us to let this narrative of the white man holding us back and racism being a factor in our lives that is going to hinder us from doing whatever it is that we want to do. That's forgiveness, right?
Right.
If we're gonna forgive, then we gotta stop talking about this racism stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You had a black president twice. I can go to any school that I want to in the United States and get as many degrees as I want.
Right.
I can buy the biggest house on the block. Right? They'll tell you that black people can't buy houses in America. I bought 3.
Yeah.
Okay? Stop listening to these people lie to you. Because what they're trying to do is keep you angry. Because when you are angry, you cannot think straight. And you cannot use your God-given common sense if you are always operating out of anger and fear. What you think?
Well, I want to go back to the red pill thing because everything that you just said was true. But you gave an example about the moment that you were red pilled. And I kind of want to talk about the moment that I was red pilled. And like I say, it came a little bit later. And let me tell you all this. Just as my dad was just telling you right now, you voted for Trump first time around, right?
Absolutely.
His red pill moment came around 2011, 2012 or so, right? And I remember
about 2010. Yeah.
I was still in college at that time when 2016 rolled around and Pop showed up with a Trump sweater. And I was tripping. I was like, what you got going on? Like, why would you do that? You know, because I was still down with listening to Tupac all the time and the government and the system is against us and XYZ, right? Well, boom. Mine was a lot more simple, to be honest with you. I watched a documentary. Mm-hmm. I watched this documentary, and it pointed out to me the faults of the legacy news media. Pointed out to me that when there's a story that goes around, and they're all instructed to say the exact same thing to stir up strife, to stir up fear, to stir up division. Mm-hmm. You'll hear CNN say it. Right. You'll hear MSNBC, NBC, BBC News, XYZ, right? You'll hear all of them say the exact same thing, and you can almost line them up all on the same screen and hear them all say it in the same cadence.
Right. And I have before.
Okay? Yeah. So I noticed that, and then that kind of opened up a loop in my brain. At that very same time, like I say, about 2018, 2019, the only thing that was in the news every single day was who? Who was the only person that was in the news every single day? Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Donald Trump was in the news every single day about how bad he is, how much of a Hitler he is, XYZ. So I started paying attention to how many news media outlets were saying that. Mm-hmm. And then it clicked to me, you know what? If they're all saying the same thing, it's probably something that they're trying to hide. It's probably some conspiracy to try to paint this man in a bad light. Then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? I've heard rap songs about Donald Trump.
Right.
And then that prompted me to do my research.
Right.
And so after doing all the research that I could, I came to figure out that, A, I was conservative and I had always been conservative. Mm-hmm. I had never taken a political stance before that. Mm-hmm. But all it took was for someone to show me the fact that the news media is not doing real reporting 90% of the time. Right. And then I started to get into the more independent news outlets. To be honest with you, I got into the YouTube stars of the world that were, doing real reporting.
Right.
Also got into, around this time, Alex Jones was catching a lot of heat. Right. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of things that every last one of these guys say that I disagree with. Mm-hmm. That's one of the earmarks that you're not cold. But either way, I disagree with things that Alex Jones does sometimes. Mm-hmm. I disagree with Candace Owens sometimes. I disagree with Larry Elder sometimes. Larry Elder is more of a libertarian.
He is.
Okay? But when you start hearing all of these different perspectives that I didn't even know existed at the time, started to form my own thought process about what I thought as far as policy is concerned and as far as leaders are concerned, who's right, who's wrong, or who's closest to right, who's closest to wrong. And I don't even like to play the closest game, to be honest with you. More times than not.
Two of the evils.
More times than not. It's somebody that's right and it's somebody that's wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was my red pill moment. And once I started to figure that out, I believe that was in 2019 because shortly after that, the George Floyd incident ends up happening. Which, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm sad that the man lost his life. Okay, I really am. But the way that the news media propagated all of the lies behind that incident and about Derek Chauvin and about how George Floyd was just, they almost made him seem like an activist in his life and a hero. Right. And now we got George Floyd statues and XYZ. I'm like, man, come on now. I'm not down with all of this. I'm not down with it. So, you know, just throughout that whole entire process, I learned a lot. But then the main thing that I learned was I was a conservative Christian that was not down with all of the foolishness that's going on behind closed doors on the left. And then the stuff that they're doing in front of open doors, the things that they're willing to do right in front of your face. And I'll leave you with this, too, because we were talking about pandering earlier. One of the worst instances of pandering to me is when Hillary Clinton gets on the doggone Breakfast Club in front of Charlemagne and Angela Yee. And what's the other one?
Charlemagne.
Light-skinned brother face. Or name. What's his name? I forget. Oh, Envy. DJ Envy. Okay. Yeah. She gets on a panel with these people.
Yeah.
And she gets to talking about, I got hot sauce right in my purse.
Right.
I don't get offended a whole lot, church. I got offended at that point. Say, hold on. You mean to tell me I'm supposed to like you because you got hot sauce in your purse? And I've heard stories about her from people that I've trained about how much of a despicable human being she is.
Right.
But she got hot sauce in her purse, so it's all right.
Right.
Like, come on now, man. I'm not trying to hear all that.
So I'm glad you brought that up because not only did she say, I got hot sauce in my purse.
Trying to pander to black people.
Right after that, Charlemagne the fraud. I ain't calling nobody else the God, so you can kill that. So Charlemagne the fraud, right after that, said, you know, people are gonna say that you're pandering to black people by making that misstatement. And then she said, is it working? And I'm like, okay, black people.
These are the people that they put up in the DNC and say this is going to be your next president.
And not only that, but since we're really focused on this pandering thing, right? You have to be a special and forgive me, folks, but I'm gonna keep it real.
I'll just say
on the Be For Real show. I am not going to hold back, but I still love you. But you got to be a special kind of stupid to allow this stuff to happen right in your face, yet you will disown your family members or your friends for years who have actually taken the time to not only open up their minds and their hearts to at least listen to the other side. And they have come with facts and figures more often than not. Because if you know a conservative in your life who has had an argument with you about politics, 9 times out of 10, I guarantee you that conservative have brought you facts, figures, and all kinds of common sense truth when they've made their arguments to you. But instead of you even giving that the time of day, you would rather buy into someone saying, I got some hot sauce in my bag. Is it working? You would rather hear somebody say that if you even consider voting for me or voting for Trump, you ain't black, like Mr. Joe Biden said. Joe Biden, who also said that he didn't want his children in jungles with black kids in the schools. He actually said these things. So, and see, a lot of times when you have these arguments, I hear people all the time talking about Donald Trump. Well, what Donald Trump said is Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump's, and I always ask him, well, prove it. You know, when it comes to like the Central Park 5 situation, prove that him taking that ad out was rooted in racism. Prove it. You cannot prove it. They also say that he filed
renting apartments and stuff like that.
The discrimination lawsuit for the housing authority.
Yeah.
Well, let me just clue some of you people in.
Give them a little insight.
A civil lawsuit is not an admission of guilt, even if found liable in the civil lawsuit. Many times people get sued and they plead no contest. But pleading no contest is not an admission of guilt. It's just saying, I don't have time for this right now, and I want this to go away. This happens to people who have a lot of money, power, and influence, especially when it comes to the bankruptcy. Oh, well, he claimed bankruptcy 6 times. Do your research on billionaires. They do this all the time. They claim bankruptcy. Oh, well, they didn't pay taxes. He didn't pay taxes on this or taxes on that. Well, stop faulting the man for knowing the tax code.
I was about to say, figure out the tax code.
Read the tax code yourself and find as many loopholes as you can, and you can cheat the tax code too. It really ain't cheating. There are
Play by
things
the
that
rules and save money.
It's not cheating. It's not cheating. It's using the tax code to your advantage, right? So if you have the nerve to say, well, this man doesn't pay as much taxes as I do, and he's a billionaire, well, figure out why. Because all of the information is available to you. Let me show y'all something, YouTube. This is something that amazes me about us in this world today. You see this? This is $1,000 phone. Okay? Mm-hmm. I'm sure your phone is $1,000 as well. I'm sure the majority of you out there have a $1,000 piece of equipment at your hand right now. There's more technology in this phone than we had on the first rocket that allegedly went to the moon.
Allegedly.
Okay? And I'm saying allegedly because I really don't know where I fall on that right now, but I got more other things to worry about.
We can do an episode on that.
We'll get on that one day. I don't fall anywhere on that particular story. So for right now, I'm going to say allegedly. But the truth is, you have all of the world's information in this $1,000 piece of equipment that you have in your hand on a daily basis. Yet, what do you do with that piece of equipment? Nothing. Nothing of value. You're either playing games on social media or on YouTube with distractions or something of the sort. But you literally have a supercomputer, like BJ said, right at your disposal every single day. So if there's something that you want to know, or if there's a truth that you are seeking, it is right here. You don't even have to go to the library anymore. You got it right here. Every document you want to use, read every bill that we have that is to be passed. You can actually look it up and read the entire bill. Just like they were talking about this immigration bill that the Republicans didn't sign.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why they didn't sign that bill.
The one that would have let 2 million across the border per year? Nah, well, I ain't with it. You wouldn't be with it either. If you live in Texas, if you live in Arizona, if you live in California, and you care about your jobs, you wouldn't.
See, we're just talking about information, right? It's the information is out there, right? So if you do not take the time to educate yourself, and it only takes minutes. It doesn't take a deep dive. If you want to do a deep dive, great. You have the opportunity to do it. But all of the information you need is right there in that little supercomputer that you're using to play Angry Birds, Candy Crush, or Roblox, or whatever it is you're doing. You know, Pornhub for some of you, but I ain't judging you. But the point is you have access to all the information you need. Use it for something useful. And if you ain't, man, get in your Bible. That'll bring you a whole lot more insight. But here's something else I want to get into, BJ. Because we really have to start attacking, and we'll do this in following episodes of the Be For Real show. We really have to start attacking those policies from the left that are killing us. Okay? Now, when I talk about policies that are killing us, the left is always pushing abortion on us, right? They push gay marriage on us. It's something that's killing us. All this gender confusion, all the transformers running around here wanting rights and all of this kind of stuff. These are things that are killing us. But somebody asked me, BJ, they say, well, why can't people just love who they love? I'm going to tell you like Judge Joe Brown said, and I'm going to shout out to Judge Joe Brown because he's been a warrior in this fight as well. Get your freak on, right? If that's your pleasure, that's your pleasure. Hey, all I'm going to say is it ain't natural. But if that's what you want to do, if that's the side of sin you want to sit on, fine. Because there's some other people that sin by stealing. There's some other people that sin with adultery. There's some people that sin by lying. There's some people that sin by, scamming people or murdering. We all sin in different kind of ways, right? So I'm not saying that. So y'all can stop coming to me on Facebook with the everybody sin mess. I know that. We all sin. But these are sins against the body, right? Not only are they sins against the body, but the more people start to accept this gay mess, and just like BJ said earlier, the more you repeat stuff to people, the more they believe it. If you continue to say something over and over and over and over and over again, people will begin to believe it. And these people who push these death agendas on us have studied us, and they know what it takes to get the human brain to accept absurdity. Okay? And all it really takes is a little bit of absurdity at a time, repeated over and over on a consistent basis. You will eventually start to believe the most absurd things. And our Bible even tells us, BJ, that in these days, that even the very elect, right? Now, don't take it light when I say that. I'm talking about the people that God have hand-selected himself are in danger of being deceived by the devils, the doctrines of devils, of the evil one. So if I know that, and that's what my Bible is telling me, and I'm looking at these death policies that they are pushing on our people, why in the world? And I'm just jump on abortion for just a minute, because I'm not going to get on that on this episode, because I got a whole lot to say about that. But let's just look at abortion and black folks. Just look at the numbers, right? Since 1973? Or was it 63? Either way. 73. Okay. Since 1973, and I did a whole blog post on this. Y'all could go check that out on the beforreal.com online. Check out my blog post called Hoodwinked, and you will find out a lot of information about abortion when it comes to the black community. But let's look at the population of black people from 1973 to 2024. The population has only raised by roughly 2%, right? So you say it was about 11, maybe 11% then, and we're roughly around 13% of the population right now. 2%, okay? When this abortion thing and this Planned Parenthood really took off, even though this was a plan way back in the 1930s with Margaret Sanger. Do your research, okay? So Black women who, if we cut this thing in half, population-wise, if we're 13% of the population, let's cut that in half, and let's just say 6 to 7% of the population. 6 to 7% of the population is responsible for 60% of the abortions in the United States from 1973 to 2024. And you can't figure out why the black population has only risen by 2%. And we ain't even going to talk about crime and murder and all of that. Let's just stick on abortion. 2%, 11% to 13%, 73 to 2024. Black women have killed over, and I'm killed. You're murderers. Now, if you have done this and you've repented, God has forgiven you. There is grace for you. Okay? I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about you who still push this policy, who still gloat about this and brag about abortion as is a good thing. You who have bought into the lie that abortion is health care. Yeah. Who is it health care for? Is it health care for you? Is it health care for the child? Who is it health care for? See, one thing that I know that my Bible said to me, and I don't know about your Bible or what you've been reading. Y'all might have been reading that nigger Bible. Maybe you have. But if you have, get out of it. Because my Bible tells me, plain and simple, that God decided with who he wanted to give life to. He breathes life into that soul, into that child. So if he decided that he wanted to put this particular child in this particular womb at this particular time, then he had a plan for that child. Yep. It ain't your body. My body, my choice. Well, if you didn't want the child, stop gapping your trap. Plain and simple.
Well, I'd say this too, to your point earlier about how people manipulate and say these talking points over and over and over again to get you to believe that it's the truth. A lot of people have come to this conclusion that before a certain period in pregnancy, what you have in your body is a clump of cells.
Clump of cells.
And they do this to dehumanize the child that is growing within the womb. And that's one of those things that I despise greatly.
Yeah.
I despise it a lot. I cannot stand it when I see someone on YouTube or when I'm talking to somebody in the comments and they comment about this growing life as a clump of cells, or they refer to it as an embryo, showing that they know absolutely nothing about biology and about how this whole entire process works. You are so far out of the embryonic stage when you are at a week or 2 or 3. And here's one of the things. They've gotten you to believe that anything before, let's just be conservative, that anything before 3 months is health care for the betterment of the woman that is having the pregnancy, that has the unwanted pregnancy.
My God.
They've gotten you to believe that. Here's my thing. Texas, as we know, is one of the most restrictive states as far as abortion is concerned. Okay. Now, stay with me because I'm going to make a point. Okay. Texas, we know, is the most restrictive. And what that law that actually made Texas the most restrictive as far as abortion is concerned is the heartbeat bill. Okay? Now, I've read the heartbeat bill. And what the heartbeat bill says, it actually does provide health care in the instance that one would need health care. Not only that, but it allows for abortion up to 6 weeks, which I don't even agree with. I still don't agree with that.
Right.
But there are a lot of people online fighting this healthcare battle and saying that, everybody is taking away our healthcare rights, which that's not what happened with the reversal of Roe v. Wade. They sent the option back to the states. But let's just focus on Texas. In Texas, you can still have an abortion within 6 weeks of the pregnancy. And you can also have a medically necessary abortion if it is a threat to the mother's life. That is in the text.
Right.
Matter of fact, doctors in Texas have to provide that health care because their duty, their sworn oath, is to protect that person that's life is in danger. So if there's, and God forbid, if there's something that goes wrong in the pregnancy, then you have not gotten any health care rights taken away from you. And at that point, you can remove what you call that clump of cells. But for you to believe that you should have the liberty to end a perfectly good life that's not putting your life in danger, it may put your social life in danger. Who cares?
You make choices.
Who cares about your social life?
Right.
It's you being weak. It's you not having the moral aptitude to understand that you made a choice. There are consequences for choices.
Right.
And now what you got to do is girdle up and get to business and making sure that you can provide for that child the best way you can. So it's crazy to me that people are fighting this battle for health care and then turn around and say that, you know, what is it worth, this clump of cells anyway? It's absolutely crazy. And then they also throw in the whole entire, the deal about, you know, it is something that I should be able to, my body, my choice,
right.
XYZ, stuff like that.
Right, right.
Well, I don't know if y'all know this, but this is science. I'm going to just say it plainly. That's another body that you don't get to make the choice for. But let's just break it down a little bit, because you have a totally different genetic code within your body. Mm-hmm. That genetic code does not belong to you. Actually, the placenta is there based on the male's DNA. The male sperm is what forms that placenta that baby is getting fed in.
Talk to him.
So when you say your body, your choice, who are we talking about? Are we talking about the baby's body? Are we talking about the father's body? Are we just talking about your body that wants to make the irresponsible decision? And they don't even talk about the regret that people experience as a result of the abortion or abortions that they've had.
You got to think about it.
This has been something that's been studied.
You got to think about it, BJ. If we look at this for what it really is, in the biblical sense, this is something that God says he hates. The hands that shed innocent blood. But you have to look at this baby as a human being first. That's where we mess up first. We just like BJ said, we tend to dehumanize that living being growing within our bodies. We dehumanize it so that we take away the stench and the guilt or whatever. But something that I want to say it was Pastor Darby, who is from Memphis, Tennessee. He's gone away now. Rest in peace to Pastor Darby. He did a really deep dive on this whole thing biblically, and I encourage you all to look up his sermon on the curse of shedding innocent blood. And he said one of the most profound things, and I continuously post this on my social media, and I will for as long as I possibly can, because the words just ring true. He said, you kill the ones in the womb that you want to get rid of, that you don't want. But then the ones that you want to keep, they get shot down on live TV. The ones that you've raised up to be a little thug get shot down on TV.
I've seen that.
The curse of shedding innocent blood. And basically said, God's going to get some tears out of you one way or the other. You going to mourn over one of these, you know? So, and again, let me also reiterate, if you have had an abortion, but you have repented and asked God for forgiveness, you are forgiveness. Walk in that forgiveness. Okay? But as you are walking in that forgiveness that God has given you, also be an activist against abortion. Don't just sit idly by and see all of these people who agree with the destruction of your people and not say anything. See, one thing that we've confused with being Christian is being soft.
Nice.
Nice.
The 11th commandment is thou shalt be nice.
Thou shalt be nice.
That's what people think.
It's not in the book. Let me tell y'all something. It's going to be a whole lot of nice people in hell. Whole lot of nice people who saw things that were going wrong and didn't say nothing. A whole lot of nice people who saw their church members going down a particular way, a particular path, and didn't stand up and say something about how wrong they were in their ideology. We have to make sure that we are keeping each other, holding each other accountable to the word that we proclaim, that we believe.
And let me add in right there, because please. I know the question is going to come up. Well, y'all are basing this all on a biblical premise and what's right versus wrong, and this has to do with the Bible, and this is what the Bible says, and so on and so forth. And yes, we agree. Yeah, everything is filtered through an understanding that we form through the Bible. But then the question comes up, and you've heard me talk about this before. People will be like, well, why do I have to believe what you believe? Because why do you even believe the Bible? Why do you believe it's true? How do you know everything in the Bible is true? Therefore, leading me to the same conclusion that you've come to. And there's a very good answer for that. And I've talked about this plenty of times. And this answer comes from Bodhi Bachman. This is something for a whole nother episode. But the question is presented, why do I choose to believe the Bible? I choose to believe the Bible because it's a collection of historical documents written down by eyewitnesses during the lifetime of other eyewitnesses. They report to supernatural events that took place in fulfillment of specific prophecies, and big key here, claim that their writings are divine rather than human in origin. So we believe the Bible, and we base our decisions and our understanding of things on the Bible because it is divine rather than human in origin. That means that it comes from God himself. That means God makes the rules, you don't.
And we're supposed to be, and again, I always talk about us Christians being the salt of the earth, right? We, and here's another thing that we get wrong when it comes to Christians. We tend to keep repeating this, well, we need to separate church and state. Well, please show me biblically where we are instructed to separate God from government. All right. Let me be real with y'all. To some of y'all that may not understand this. And again, listen to me very clearly. When you get to heaven, if you are so fortunate to make it into those gates, DEI will not exist in heaven. There is no equality in heaven. Okay? There will be government in heaven. All right?
There's ranks.
There's ranks of all of it. Just look at how the angels are. You know, there's different ranks of angels. There is government. There's order. Okay? But on the flip side, for those of you that are on the fast track to hell, which I pray that you find Jesus Christ on your journey, and you don't have to experience that. But if that is your choice, guess what? DEI don't exist in hell either. Government exists in hell. Rankings and authority will still exist in hell. So for all of you who feel as if there needs to be a separation of church and state, you're absolutely wrong. The Christian, and let me, when I say that term, when I say Christian, I'm talking about those blood-bought believers in the gospel of Jesus Christ. Because throwing the term Christianity out there nowadays, it sometimes it comes with a bad light, because some of those who are claiming to be Christians are not walking what they talk and are not only believing doctrines of devils, but are living out the doctrine of devils. So I'm going to say, you blood-bought believers in the gospel of Jesus Christ, we are to be the salt of the earth. That means that our government should be reflecting our beliefs in Christ. Okay? That's what us who believe are supposed to be standing on. Now, I know many of you will say, well, this is America. We make room for everybody. And I agree. This is America, and there is room for everyone of all walks of life. And we welcome you all. But that does not mean you, blood-bought believer in the gospel of Jesus Christ, are supposed to stay in silence while you watch your world around you crumble, while you watch your people dissolve, while you watch your race, and not just your race, but you watch people literally start the process of extinction in your lifetime, and you sit there and you don't say nothing. You are what I consider a jellyback Christian. Y'all need to start standing up and speaking out. And stop coming at me with all this that we not supposed to judge others. That's not biblical. Y'all have taken that context. Y'all have taken the scripture of judge not lest ye be judged out of context. You can't use that for every situation. All that's talking about is hypocrisy. That means if I'm standing there smoking a cigarette, I can't tell you that you can't smoke a cigarette. That's what that means. But for us to be standing here as Christians and not speaking up, the Bible says that we are supposed to preach the word in season and out of season. That is not just for the preacher. That is for every blood-bought believer in the gospel of Jesus Christ. Stand up, say something, stand firm on the word. Stop being jellybacks, and let's change this thing, because this is what God wants us to do. So before we get out of here, BJ, this is something that I did want to talk about real quick. There's some movements that I want to bring light to. If you guys don't know who Pastor John Amanchukwu is, he is a pastor out of North Carolina, a member of I think it's the God First Church of
God. I can't remember the name of the exact.
Upper Room.
The Upper Room. That's
Upper Room Church of God in Christ. He is a youth pastor that I want to say, where the goodness, I'm forgetting his name. My favorite. Lord have mercy. Bishop Patrick L. Wooden is the pastor. You guys go find John Amanchukwu. He has a movie out right now called 22 Words, and it's talking about the books that are in our libraries, in school districts nationwide, that need to be banned. This is a very insightful documentary, very well produced. Y'all go check that out. It's 22 Words. And I want to say it's IamAbeliever.com. If I'm not correct on there, I'm going to drop the link down in the description so y'all could go check that out. Also, go and check out this website called Preborn. We talk about abortion a lot. Y'all go and check out Preborn. What Preborn does is it allows those women who are going in considering abortion, and it shows them the ultrasound of their babies. And many times once they see the actual ultrasound,
and that it's not a clump of cells,
right, they become connected with that child, and they decide to have the child. And what they also do, which I've learned recently, is after the child is born, they take care of the child. They make sure that the child has everything that they need. So for all of you jellyback Christians who are out there talking about, well, y'all need to care about the child after they come out the womb as well, there are people who care. Look at adoption. There's so many people that want to adopt babies out there. So we got to stop these false narratives. But we're going to get so we got to stop these false narratives.